Speed is my motto, nothing's ever holding back.
Every new iRacing season begins the same way. Hope, optimism, and for a lot of drivers, quiet panic. Because deep down, we all know what's coming. Chaotic Week 1 races, unpredictable results, and that familiar temptation to measure our entire season after just a handful of starts. Season 4 2025 reminded me of something important. iRacing doesn't reward urgency, it rewards control. This episode isn't about celebrating stats or chasing perfection. It's about understanding how seasons actually unfold, where iRating is really gained and lost, how confidence is built or damaged, and why restraint often beats raw speed. I want to talk honestly about where Season 4 worked, where it didn't, and how both my racing and this podcast are heading into Season 1 2026 with more intention than ever. Because strong seasons don't come from heroic drivers, they come from good decisions repeated calmly over time. This episode is a reflective and forward-looking conversation built around two parallel journeys. The first section is around my iRacing season in Season 4 2025 and its performance, or my performance. We're going to look at the numbers, what they really mean, and the lessons hiding behind them. And in Part 2, we're going to look at the podcast itself. What 1,611 audio downloads in a single season tells us, and where the show goes next as we head into Season 1 2026. This is not a victory lap, it's a honest stock take. Let's start with the headline stats from my Season 4 2025. I completed 208 race starts with an average start position of 7th. My average finish of those 208 races was 6th. I achieved 10 wins out of those 208 races with 120 top 5 finishes. I drove 2,432 laps and I led those races for 99 laps. On paper, this is a busy, competitive season, but the real story lives behind those numbers. 208 starts in a single season tells us a lot before we even look at results. This wasn't just casual participation. I was consistent, almost relentless, and engaged with the service. I raced across weeks, series and conditions. It built racecraft faster than hot lapping ever will. It also exposed weaknesses though quicker than normal. The upside, massive race exposure, improved decision making under pressure, and confidence racing in traffic. But with an upside, there's also a downside. Fatigue, increased risk of careless accidents, less time for structured practice if discipline slips. Season 4 was clearly about doing the laps, and that foundation actually matters. So we're going to look at all these stats in a bit more detail, and you can reflect on your own. An average start of 7th and an average finish of 6th might look modest, but it's one of the most important indicators in the entire graphic. You are on average gaining positions in races. That's me, sorry. I'm gaining positions in races. That suggests strong race pace relative to qualifying, good situational awareness, patience over desperation, and a lower tendency to self-inflict damage. This is the profile of a driver who finishes races properly. For Season 1 2026, the opportunity for me is clear. Improve qualifying consistency, convert more P6s to P4 finishes into podium challenges. Now we're going to look at wins versus top fives. 10 wins from 2008 starts to tell us something important. This season wasn't about domination, but 120 top 5 finishes actually screams consistency. That's well over half of my races ending inside the sharp end of the field. So why does that matter? iRacing is built on consistency. Championship points reward repeatable results. Mental confidence grows faster from steady performance rather than occasional wins. Season 4 2025 looks like a season where the floor was raised for me, even if the ceiling stayed pretty similar. What about laps led? 2,432 laps driven is a huge sample size, but I only led for 99 laps out of those 2,432. So it tells us and me something very specific. You're often near the front, less often controlling the race. Excuse me. That's not a criticism though, it's a development marker. It could lead to confidence in the clean air pace, defensive race management, and knowing when not to fight. And this is a natural step for Season 1 2026. Now, we're going to look now at areas to improve, track strengths, weaknesses, and iRating leakage. One of the most important reflections from Season 4 2025 isn't visible in the headline stats at all. It's this. I was strong at certain tracks and combinations, and guess what? I farmed them to death. And noticeably, I was weaker at other tracks where I did the minimum races knowing that I would lose IR. So I was really conscious about that. But those weaker weeks quietly bled iRating. And this is something almost every committed iRacer experiences, but very few properly analyse it. On tracks that suit my driving style, the pattern was clear. Qualifying closer to the front, easier race management, less mental load defending or attacking, and a higher chance of top 5 finishes or even wins. There are usually tracks that reward flow and rhythm, momentum over aggression, and predictable braking zones. On these circuits, confidence compounds. One good result leads to another. The danger, comfort can create false confidence. But what about the other flip side, the weaker tracks? The real damage to iRating didn't come from crashes or disasters. It came from persistent racing on tracks I wasn't strong at. Common traits of those weeks included overdriving in qualifying, starting mid-pack or even worse at times, fighting in unstable traffic, and taking risks just to recover lost ground. Even when finishing races cleanly, the results were often a P10 instead of a P6 or a P12 instead of a P8. Individually, they're harmless. Collectively, they're very expensive. And this is where many iRacers misunderstand iRating. iRating. The trap sounds a bit like this. If I race more, I'll average it out. But in reality, strong weeks rarely fully recover weak weeks. iRating losses come faster than gains. Confidence erosion spills into future races. So Season 4 made this painfully clear. So we need to look at a solution, or a countermeasure as I would call it. We need to be honest and have some self-classification. The solution is not more practice everywhere, it's classification. For Season 1 2026, tracks fall into 3 personal categories. 1. Strength tracks, race aggressively and often, and these are your ones where you're confident and you know you can do well. Then there is neutral tracks, race selectively, focus on finishing. And finally, your weak tracks, practice or spectate but race sparingly. This isn't quitting, it's more a strategic mindset. So what can you, the listeners, learn and the viewers learn from this? If you take one thing from this episode, let it be this. You don't have to race every week or even every day. You do have to protect your confidence and decision making. So your actionable and my actionable takeaways are: review your last season track by track, not by overall stats. Identify where you consistently lose positions. And most of us all know those tracks that we fear or loathe when we see them coming up on the schedule. Identify where you consistently lose positions on those tracks. Reduce race volume on weak combinations and enter those weeks with a finished first mindset. iRating isn't built by bravery alone, it's built by restraint. Now, we mentioned this on many of my podcasts now. There's a hidden mental cost from weaker weeks. The most underestimated consequence of struggling at certain tracks isn't statistical, it's mental damage. Season 4 2025 made this very clear to me. After a poor week at a weak track, the effects didn't stop when the schedule rolled over. They leaked into qualifying confidence, risk tolerance in early laps, and trust in my own racecraft, even on tracks I knew I was strong at. Mental damage really looks dramatic. It looks like braking a fraction early, hesitating on perfectly valid overtakes, overthinking defensive moves, and racing the rating instead of the race. Individually, each one of these is very tiny. Collectively, they're race defining. This is how one bad week quietly becomes 2 and then 3. I've touched base on this as well in previous podcasts, the spiral iRacers don't talk about. Here's the spiral many iRacers fall into. Weak track weeks go poorly, iRating drops faster than expected, drivers race more to fix it, pressure increases, mistakes follow, and confidence erodes even further. By the time as the drivers realises what's happening, the damage is already done. And I've been there. Season 4 wasn't immune to it. So how do you protect the mental side of it? The fix isn't motivation, it's protection. And for me, and maybe some of you, that means walking away from a bad session earlier, setting a maximum race count on weak weeks, treating survival finishes as wins, and separating confidence from short-term iRating movement. This is also part of racecraft. So what I would like you, the viewers and listeners, to maybe take away from this: if a track consistently hurts both your results and your mindset, It deserves respect, not defiance. Protecting your mental state is not being soft, it's being sustainable. So what has Season 4 taught me as a sim racer? Season 4 reinforced 3 key lessons. Racing smarter beats racing harder. Consistency builds rating faster than raw speed. And seat time only works if reflection follows it. Which brings us neatly to the podcast itself. So we're going to have a short break. I hope you've enjoyed part 1 of today's podcast. And we'll be back in a short break. Now we're going to look at how the podcast has performed utilising the same 13 weeks in a season, same measure and time period as iRacing. Overall, we are just shy of 12,000 downloads for the time period that the podcast has been running. So we're on season 4, so that's 4 years. And in the time period of the season 4 2025, the podcast has received 1,611 audio podcasts. That does not include the YouTube views at all. This is just the audio. And I personally want to thank everybody that has downloaded and listened to the podcast. And that this actual number matters, not because it's viral, but because it's earned. This is basically organic growth, a consistent listener base, that's you, proof that long form through iRacing content still actually has an audience. And people clearly aren't just clicking, they're listening. So what's worked well in Season 4? Some of the content has been really deep dive analysis. Some of the topics we've really looked at with some out-the-box thought processes is iRating safety system and how people and drivers are punished. I think that episode was really expansive and gave thought for different opportunities and potential different ways of looking at the safety system. Honest criticism of iRacing systems, and that was one of them, and skill building discussions over hype. I try and give back how I've learned to improve my iRacing over the 4 years through this podcast, through you to help you improve as an iRacer as well. The response suggests you, the listeners, value authenticity over outrage, experience over speculation, and calm analysis in a noisy sim racing space. That's a direction worth doubling down on. Now, I've also tried to encourage other people to come and join me on the podcast. Even if you want to come and just be a guest and do an interview and let other iRacers get to know who you are, but also come and be a co-host as well. So Brendan has done one. We all met Brendan a couple of episodes ago, and I'm hoping that he will be back sometime in the new year. But if anybody else wants to come and join, feel free, drop me a line on the podcast email. Now, we're going to look now quickly at setting goals for Season 1 2026. And we're going to start with the driving goals. For Season 1 2026, the on-track goals for me are pretty clear, and this is basically from the stats. Improve qualifying execution, lead more laps, not just finish well, be more selective with race entries, and convert consistency into podium pressure. In summary, less racing equals better racing. Now for the podcast. Let's look at the content goals. Fewer filler episodes, more evergreen content, more listener-focused skill improvement topics, and occasional long-form reflection episodes pretty much like this one. Then we're going to look at set some growth goals, increase listener retention, not just raw downloads, strengthen the identity of the Lone Road iRacing podcast as a thinking racers podcast, and stay independent, honest and community driven. Now, to be able to pick up on some of those goals, I need input and ideas from you, the community that listens to the podcast. So please keep coming. Send me some topics that you would like me to cover as we start 2026. Now we're going to move on now to how to start a new season the right way, i.e. Season 1 2026. So before we close this episode, I think it's important to talk about how to start a new season properly, because many iRacers lose control of a season before week 2 has even finished. A new season is not a reset of skill, it's a reset of mindset. So here's some thoughts for everybody to listen to and take away from today's episode. One of the biggest mistakes iRacers make is treating Week 1 as a referendum on their ability. Week 1, as we know, is chaotic. Drivers return rusty, new content or BOP changes, overdriving in qualifying and high incident rates. Starting positive doesn't mean starting fast. It means starting clean. Early season goals should be finish races, avoid unnecessary risks, build race rhythm and let others make mistakes. Banking safe results early gives you freedom later in the season. Now, iRating obsession early in a season is how pressure creeps in. Instead, think about setting process goals. Hit qualifying laps without invalidation, finish on the lead lap, keep incidents below a personal limit, and exit races feeling composed, not drained. And results will follow if you follow that process. A new 12-week season is also not linear. Your form will move, your confidence will move, and the key is to adapt to that. That means adjusting expectations week to week, reducing race volume when confidence dips, increasing participation when momentum builds, and accepting plateaus without forcing progress. Drivers who adapt finish seasons strong. Drivers who resist, reality equals burnout. And what about checking where you are mid-season? By week 4 or 5, you should be asking these kind of questions on yourself. What tracks have suited me so far? Where am I forcing results? And am I racing emotionally or strategically? Some corrections here prevent big losses in the second half of the season. And ending strong starts right at the beginning. Strong finishes don't come from late heroics. They come from calm early weeks, honest mid-season assessment, smart restraint when things feel off. Season 1 2026 doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be controlled. So, my closing thoughts for today's podcast, stats, and starting the brand new season. Season 4 2025 for me wasn't about trophies, it was about foundations, both on track and behind the microphone. As we head into Season 1 2026, the goal isn't to reinvent anything. It's to take what worked, tighten what didn't, and keep moving forward. One lap, one race, and one episode at a time. And I want to thank you again for being part of this journey. Well, I want to thank you again, listeners and viewers, for being part of my journey and our journey together. Feel free to contact me using the email or find me on Facebook or other social media. Until then, that's me, your host, Guy Robertson, looking forward to Season 1, 2026. Happy iRacing, and don't forget to say hello on the track. Happy iRacing, see you soon.
Whatever it takes, we're racing, we're in the zone. Whatever it takes, we push hard, never alone. I'm in the cockpit, the engines roar, hear me now. We're racing circles, got a hustle, made a vow. Chasing victory, it's all or nothing on the track. Speed is my motto, nothing's ever holding back. Whatever